Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all of you to another episode of Global Woman Insight. My name is Dr. Farad Asif, and I am your host today for the next episode of season 2 of Global Woman Insight. This is an initiative that I took over the year, and this is a series of conversation I do with amazing women, extraordinary women from across the world to share insights on leaderships and their issues, their challenges, and how they have overcome to help themselves to who they are today. This I am the founder president of Institute of Peace and Diplomatic Studies, and we specialize in leadership, peace, and diplomacy. At the institute, we have established Center for Women, Peace, and Leadership, an academic and training center of excellence that was inducted by Nobel Peace Laureate Rahman. My guest today is an amazing leader, humanist, philanthropist, and the CEO of and founder of Resilient Power. Today, she has received 18 International Changemaker Awards and nomination and was among the top 50 global women to look out for in 2023. She is not only a leader but is a global citizen who has shared her kindness and power of knowledge to create the change. A Harvard Business Review advisory and Forbes Council member, strategic advisor, and international executive communication and resilient expert, she is appointed as a senator for the USA in the World Business Angel Investment Forum and as a member of the Executive Global Network member as well. He has been globally recognized by immense awards and considered as a change agent and a success mentor. She is a long-standing entrepreneur, investor, philanthropist, and best-selling published author. Let us welcome my very dear friend Sharesz T.Wilkinson, who is with us today. Thank you
Hello.
so much, Sharesz, for sharing with us and sitting with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for so much for this big introduction. Now I have to live up to it. Thank you for the opportunity
So
as
we
well.
Yes, it's a huge pleasure that you are with us, and I hope that those in the audience they will be watching us and they have a lot of questions to ask from you. So before I begin, and I would like to ask you, who is Shersaz and what is her story? And since your incredible journey over the time period that you had started, what has motivated you every day to strive as you are and bring the excellence and difference in this world?
Okay. First of all, it's Sharesz T. Wilkinson.
It's
Sharesz is my public and offer name, which I have adopted many, many years ago. And I published books under this name, as well as had public speaking engagement in a variety of countries around the world. How has this all come to happen? I think it has been an innate thing for me to always look at how to improve situations, circumstances, as well as people, and working towards that on a continuous basis. I cannot really pinpoint to a moment where this happened. It's just been there since I was little. And over time, it builds up. It accumulates over the years, and that's where I am today, where I'm at. I didn't expect all of these things to happen, by the way. That was never the goal or the purpose, but it was just always driven by making a difference and making a difference on a level where it affects or has an impact on as many people as possible. And it has never been about me, but it has always been about how to move societies forward from where they are to where they can be. So I'm as well a Rotary member, and in 2013 I received the award of humanitarian from Rotary due to the work that I did in Malaysia with the Rotary Education Fund. And that was work over a 5 years period of time, consistently with the team that we had together. I was a part of that. We were 5 people who built it up in Malaysia at the time since 2009. And for me, it was always the drive to give back. So I feel like I was very fortunate for having been born in the country I was born in. I'm originally from Switzerland. I had a very good upbringing in that sense. And I grew up in an environment where we had clean air, clean water, resources available. It was safe, it was peaceful. And I always felt very grateful and fortunate to have had the opportunity to be born in a place like that. I'm very aware that this is not always the case. And over the years, I've traveled to more than 50 countries by now. I lived in 12 all around the world. And I'm acutely aware that this is not a given for most people. So maybe because due to that, I felt compelled to, wherever I could, give back or make a difference to actually do that.
Yeah, yeah, this is inspiring. And of course, when you are privileged, and especially as you consider yourself as somebody who had been supported, having the environment to build and grow, you felt inside you that you can deliver back to the communities, to the societies, and helping them move forward. Yes, is it that case? I think that this is the way as humans we grow.
I think my initial education was a teacher. And as a teacher, you believe in growing good streaks and opportunities for people, with people, and within people. And you believe in that power to make a positive change and shift. I think otherwise, no one would become a teacher or enter into that profession. It's all about building and having the positive outlook that you build towards something constructive. And I think that has stayed with me all my life, no matter what I was doing. So, um, yeah, forming and building young students or young professionals into people who eventually go on with their expertise or their knowledge to make a positive difference in their environment as well, and then letting it ripple from there.
Yes. And what is the trigger moment, a pivotal moment, or or something that has happened to you to lead to your path? For example, if you ask me, there are a lot of pivotal moments. For example, moving from one place to another to study, are few of the moments that are kind of for reshaping us, or kind of for the moments that really trigger us who are we are today. So what are those pivotal moments that has shaped you as who you are today
I think a big
in your
part of it was when I was growing
life?
up. I started when I was 4 year old with ice figure skating, and it became a sport which I practiced eventually on a daily basis over the holidays. Went for training camps. I made it up to regional level in competitions. And ice figure skating is actually a hard sport to do because it consists of a lot of different disciplines. You have to have strength, condition training, you have to have ballet for grace, as well as music lessons for musicality, plus the ice figure skating training itself. And that happened under any conditions, if it was snowing or raining or icy or cold or whatever it was. I was staying there on the ice with this very thin dress that ice figure skaters usually wear, and it was freezing cold, and my ankles were bleeding many times. And this endurance of sport and the grit and the perseverance to pull through no matter how hard it gets and not giving up, and no matter how many times you fall down, you get back up literally. So this is not
Exactly.
a figurative speech. This was real. You fall down on ice that's like concrete, and to take that pain and get up every single time and continue with the training over nearly 10 years. I think that was a very thorough education, which probably shaped me the most in terms of to just go for it and make the effort if you can do it, and pull through and see things to completion.
Yes. And I would like to also know that there are mentors in life. There are men, women, there are people around us who who mentor us, right? And we both truly believe on mentorship, as you also are mentor to many in this success career. But who are the people who had been your mentor and who had been helping you through your entire journey and building you up and shaping you?
There's so many. I I wouldn't be able to name. There's all along the way, all the time. There are always people there that give inputs that are ahead in the journey. They're further. They have progressed further on the path that I'm walking, and they give feedback or inputs or advice or support or help. It's all about the relationship building. And I think the biggest one is about purpose. So again, it's not about me doing my thing or me wanting to be great or me wanting to achieve a certain outcome. It's always about this is the purpose, and doing these things is going to lead to XYZ outcome for X amount of people. I think that has been the biggest driver. If you ask me for mentors, when I think about biographies that I was reading when I was a teenager, it was the classics from the 80s. I think it was Gandhi, it was Martin Luther King that spring to mind. And then it was a few others as well. But those two, I think they made really a mark in terms of when I was 15, 16 years old. And I saw the movies as well. So Gandhi with Ben Kingsley at the time. And the movie about South Africa with Cry Freedom, that definitely left a deep imprint on me. And I remember when I was 17 watching that movie for the first time, I was so upset about it. And I promised to myself that for the rest of my life, wherever I see either injustice or unfairness or something that's off and I can do something about it, I will. So I barely was ever a bystander and just letting things happen. Um, I got myself into hot water many times because of that. So
I mean, because of mentors, I mean, those influential events and influential people in our lives are often they make us uncomfortable, as you said, putting it
mm,
us into hot waters, making us uncomfortable. So mentors are primarily those people who always challenge us, really, and they can be family members or they can be co-workers. Um, then what do you think those mentors, for example, there are many people who might be looking at us. I mean, do we sometimes we choose them and sometimes we don't choose them, right? So what do you think about those mentors? I mean,
I think the people we learn the most from are the ones that make us suffer the most. So these are not the people we choose. These are not the people we want to have in our life necessarily. These are neither the people who do the right thing or are just or fair or anything like that. Most of the time, I think we learn the most through situations where we are exposed to unfairness, injustice, or danger, or downright wrong situations and have to find a way out of it. And I think what keeps us going then is really your value and belief system. And the value and belief system depends, of course, on cultural upbringing, right? The environment that you grew up in, as well the culture and the religion or the belief or the spirituality or whatever people want to name it. But everybody has a value and belief system. And I think that if someone can lean on that and really have faith and believe in it, it's a tremendous amount of strength. I don't think a human being by itself could fathom or master that kind of strength or grit or perseverance. But having this kind of backup in terms of a source where you can go to and recharge and re-energize and refill your wells in that sense when they're empty, it's really priceless. And again, it has nothing to do with a specific religion or mindset. I think everyone has it. If you're Muslim, or if you're Christian, or if you're Jewish, or if you're agnostic, even people who don't believe in God, they still believe in something, you know.
Yeah.
But you do have to have a value and belief system. If you don't
Yeah. True.
stand for something and you don't know who you are, it's going to be tremendously difficult to not surrender and give up in difficult circumstances.
True, true. I truly agree with you on that. So I would like to also know that you have received tremendous and impressive number of international clouds, I mean awards and nominations and whatnot. And I'm truly, truly impressed and the leader that you are today. So what do those recognitions mean to you? For example, like in professionally or personally, and these diverse awards that you have, which one holds very true and dear to you? I mean, I'm not asking you to choose which one is best or not, but sometimes a recognition that comes towards you means too much. I mean, you say, okay, this was the something which is very much meaningful to me. So all these awards, what does all mean to you?
So, first of all, I never was out for any awards or anything in that sense.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
Most of them, they came just snowing in, I call that, because of the work that I was doing consistently over many, many years. And
Yeah.
I remember the Rotary Award. I wasn't in Rotary anymore, and I met the president of that Rotary Club per
Yeah.
coincidence in the street one day when I was back in Malaysia, and he said, "You have to come to the club meeting next week." And I said, "I'm not in the meetings anymore because I moved and I'm living somewhere else at the moment." And he said, "No, you have to come." And I'm like, I was really intrigued. Why is he so insisting? But I respected him as a,
Exactly.
maybe not mentor, but as a leader. And I said, yes, okay, I will be there. And that's when this humanitarian fellow award happened. I wasn't even aware that that was what he was
Yeah.
planning to do, right?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
insisted of doing that, and he was really vehement about it. And fate is funny sometimes, because 3 weeks later he passed away. He got
Oh.
struck by some virus and was admitted to the hospital. He was healthy. He didn't have anything visible or a condition, and within less than a week or 2 weeks he was gone. So these are things that really get to you on a level that's okay. Why did that happen this way, right? And
Yeah.
again, it's not about the award. It's more about, for that person, having taken the effort and the intensity of really making it happen. Because first I said,
Yeah.
no, I don't need anything. I'm like, I did that because I grew up and had the opportunity to grow up in Malaysia. And for each year they went to school there, I really wanted to give back to the
Yeah.
community and the society, and help other kids and children having similar opportunities, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this gratefulness for having had this kind of exposure and lifestyle led to that
Yeah.
award. But I think that's the
Yeah.
most meaningful in that sense, because it came from someone who really truly wanted to honor the efforts as well as the impact it had, in his opinion. And it
Yeah.
was a dear friend. So now, talking about all the other awards, the next one was the Global Women Economic Forum in New Delhi, in India. When I got that email, I thought it was a prank. So I had the
Why?
email.
I mean, sometimes I.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't. I really did not expect anything like that to happen. So I opened the email, and I remember I told my partner at the time, I don't know what this is, if it's a prank or not. And then he said, you should do some research, call them, get some more information. And I did. And then it turned out, oh, this is actually real. And I'm like, I was so scared. I was so scared. I was thinking, oh my God, no, I have to travel now to India, New Delhi for the first time. And
Yeah.
this was a global conference with 2,000 people from all over the world. And I've never done anything like that at this point, right? So again, it wasn't even about the award. It was more about stepping up to the occasion and growing into that position where I was able to give a speech on stage in front of all these people and accepting that award. It was a really surreal situation for me in a way. And
Yeah,
then
it must
it
have.
just kept going like this. It was really not something that I worked on or towards for the first few years. It was just happening all the time. For
Yeah,
me, it was a sign that what I do is valid, it's valuable, and it's needed. And that
exactly.
gave me the motivation and the drive to continue because it wasn't always easy, right? Many times I went far above and beyond my person who I am. I'm an introvert. I'm not used to speak on stages. I'm very quiet normally, and I really had to grow tremendously as a person to become that kind of leader that got all those recognitions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah. Yeah, while you were saying and you were sharing about the awards, sometimes recognition is also important for your drive, the work that you do. I mean, and it shows support and validation sometimes. But when I was while you were speaking, sometimes women get shy of those awards. I mean, when they receive those awards, compared to the other gender. I mean, it sometimes I feel that way myself as well. I say, oh, do I really deserve? Or sometimes I feel that, is it meaningful? What does it mean and stuff like that. So while you were saying, I had these same, I mean, the questions why women feel that way. So yeah.
I think it's social conditioning, right? In terms of education, when you're a boy, you're encouraged to dare, to take chances, to be aggressive, to do more things. Then when you're a girl or a woman, you're constantly told, oh, this is not ladylike, or you're not supposed to stand out, or you're not supposed to speak up, or all these kind of things. And I think, although we're in two very, very different cultures, that's a similarity that goes throughout the world. I think it's rarely encouraged for a girl or a woman to be a leader or speak up or go against the grain or be different and stand her own
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
stand on her own legs in that sense, her feet. So you won't find a wall in my place or a place where I have trophies or diplomas stuck to the wall
Exactly.
or anything like that. Nothing. It's not there. It's
Yeah.
many times these things came in when I was about to give up or when I felt really low or down, and it really kept me
Yeah.
going. So in that sense, I'm very grateful for having received those. They really kept me going over the time. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And those people, folks who are listening to us, please share your questions to our amazing guest today, and you can write down, and we can see your questions in our chat, in our question section. Please go ahead with that. So, one of my question, and which is very much related to what you are doing currently, and as a CEO founder of the Resilient Power. So what is this company is all about, and as a CEO and founder of such an important company, what are the core values that is driving you and your company forward, and how you are embedding those values in your team as well. So
So for the last 7 years, I've been working with multinational companies, C-level executive-centered teams, as well as with tech startups and entrepreneurs on instilling leadership skills in communication as well as in self-regulation. It doesn't sound very interesting, but actually it's a very, very powerful thing in
yeah,
negotiations, in team alignment, in retention, in business per se, when you want to do success engineering. And What I'm doing with Resilient Power is we're creating change top down, one leader and their team at a time, letting it ripple through companies, organizations, and sometimes entire nations. Hence, why all these awards happened over the time. But what's really relevant and important in terms of alignment is the purpose and the vision. So again, this company is about instilling in people the skills and the resilience to make a difference top down. And when I say a difference means I usually work and support companies that in some way have a positive impact on societies and as well organizations. And that can be political, it can be economical, it can be education wise. I'm a mentor for the National University Singapore for the Entrepreneur Society. And I've done a lot of other things as well in support of anything that moves the world forward in a positive manner and in a productive and constructive manner. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the core value of this company? On what it is? It is just a company that is helping the entrepreneurs to reach their goals. Yes, and also can you share that one or two examples of where you thought, ah, I made an impact through this initiative?
Um, well, I think what comes to mind is during the pandemic, I was working with a large multinational company with the leadership team. I worked with the CEO, the chief executive officer, the chief marketing officer, the chief technology officer, as well the research people, and a country managing director. And the topic was communication. So, how to present to stakeholders for higher buy in. But during the pandemic, what actually came to light was it was much more needed to talk and train about stress management, time management, how to deal with fear, how to deal with uncertainty, and all these things. And I think it really made an impact because most of these team members that I was working with in 2020, they're still working together today, although they moved to a spin off of that company. So the core team for many years stayed intact. And I think the alignment that happened through meta communication as well, through what I was doing in work with them, really had an impact on their business as well. So they got higher buy-in, they got better numbers, and this is a company that supports people in the medical field, which has a really important impact on anyone getting their products into their hand. I cannot say who it was because I have NDAs, 47 pages to sign. So, but I think I really had tangible outcomes like that, not just monetary wise, when a company had increase of 207% in their profit in 1 year, or they grew their business XYZ amounts just within a short period of time. It's more about the personal impact as well. I believe when you work with somebody and you lead them to comprehension of who they are and kind of self-acceptance. Now, this is a very female thing. I would call it self-love, right? But self-acceptance and knowing how to manage and steer yourself in a positive manner. It ripples through their entire team and organization because a leadership always trickles down to the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So if you go to a restaurant and you have waiters with an attitude and a bad
Yeah.
service, it's usually not just due to that waiter, but it goes all the way up to the restaurant manager because they don't enforce proper training, proper communication. Maybe they don't even treat the stuff properly either. So it trickles all the way down.
True. True.
And the same is true in the positive way. If somebody learns how to deal with situations differently in a better, more constructive manner, this also has an effect throughout an organization.
So, since you are coaching and helping the leaders to be the leaders that they should be in their companies, and also coaching and helping the companies to build themselves, so what are the few of the traits that you say, okay, these are the important traits that should be there in the leader to lead a company and also I mean, in the society as well. So, what are the traits that you think these are the most important and should be there in the leader so that they can lead the company in a better manner?
I think one of the most important skill is self-awareness and then self-regulation skills. So as a leader within a team, you cannot just blurt out whatever reaction comes to your mind, especially if somebody's choleric or aggressive or angry. You have to be able to have a filter in between and to rationalize how I'm going to react. How do I choose to react in the best possible manner for the benefit of the team and the company? Now, that's not always possible, right? But to get
Yeah,
to that point, it needs such a big level of work on yourself, as
yeah,
well as your triggers, your history, your family history, your background, as well as what do I choose to stand for. So this
yeah,
clarity and purpose, why am I doing what I'm doing? And what's the outcome that I want to achieve is
true.
really relevant and important, because without that, leaders are like ships drifting on the sea.
Yeah,
So this leads usually to very bad leadership, where employees or team members feel like they never know what kind of reaction to expect. They don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. Somebody's choleric and they take their temper out on the team or on the staff, which happens quite often as well. Um, it's a very low level of self-regulation skills as well as awareness. And then coming in there, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist. It's not my job to do therapy with this kind of people, but through communication, you can instill a certain flowchart system that allows them to think things through in a different manner and get some distance from what is happening in the
yeah,
moment. It makes life a lot
yeah,
easier. And to instill
yeah,
this kind of meta communication allows a team as well as the leaders to have a common language, which does not depend on the ego and it doesn't depend on your personal history. Based on science, and when you apply it, it works. That's the beauty about it. So it makes
yeah,
communication a lot more bearable for many.
yeah. True. True. I think these are important traits that any leader should be, regularly work on themselves. It is not just happen in a day. I think you agree with me in that the leaders are work in progress, not they become leaders in a day. They're just work in progress, and of course, on daily basis, they are expected to do more. What do you think about that?
Well, it's like a puzzle with with a thousand pieces. You have so many different puzzle pieces that need to fall into place for great leadership to happen. And I'm not the expert on that. I'm the expert on resilience and on communication. I'm not the expert on leadership per se, right? But what I think is really important as well, and what I see is lacking in many people, is enforcing boundaries. It's not about just setting boundaries, but how do you enforce them when they're crossed? And what are the measures and actions that you take to ensure that they are respected? And in many cases, this awareness as well how to do it is missing. So that's something
Exactly.
that we
Yeah.
work on. And one thing which is really funny, maybe I can share this. I haven't met a single person, no matter how important that they are, that hasn't asked me after a presentation or a talk, um, was that good enough? So even if someone comes across as very self-assured or experienced, I think this inner fear of not being good enough is really something that accompanies most people, and it makes us
Yeah.
all human, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And as you're saying that I mean, resilient expert. So what exactly resilience look like in a leader or in a person who is driving change? So what does it look like?
Well, I've developed an approach over 35 years, which I call the key eight. And what I look at with people is the eight key areas in life, which goes from health to mindset to family relationships, family history, intergenerational patterns, to value and belief system, to have clarity in what you choose to stand for, you and not the expectations of society or family or somebody else, but driven from your own purpose. What is it that you choose to stand for? And then the next one is what do you want to leave behind? What's your legacy going to be? And that's not just monetary, it's in terms of impact actions, in terms of how do you support the community or give back. And then how you connect it to everything else around you. And then, of course, business and finance, right? So these eight together, having the awareness in how to engineer your best possible outcome. And that's not some lofty dream. That's really the success engineering blueprint. How do I have to put all these parameters in place so I actually achieve and reach the destination I'm set out to reach? And it's a process that's
Yeah.
repeatable over and over and over. So when people look at my CV on LinkedIn, for example, many have asked me, how did you do this in so many different fields? Within a few years, you rise to the top. And this is exactly how I did it. It takes a lot of humility because we have
Yes.
to constantly reassess what is working and what is not working anymore, and then let go of what doesn't work and make the space for new things to happen. And this transition is very difficult. Most people have a really hard time doing this, and it's never easy. So from the moment when you hold something in your hand, let me take, I don't know if you can see it in the screen, but let's say I have this cup, right? This is my current life situation. Now I want to change this to something different. I want to have a different career. I want to make progress. I want to reach a certain specific goal. But this right now that I hold doesn't get me there, right? So now, how do we transition into the next thing, which is something else? I don't know. Maybe you can see this here. Sorry, I make a little demonstration. So this is a holder. The only way to do that is I have to put this down. And then the transition of having your hands empty until you have the next thing in your hand. This is very hard to do for most people. They hold on to what is right now, dreaming about
Yes.
the next thing they want to achieve,
Mhm.
but they're incapable to let go and put this down. So you have to kind of become naked to the bone. Whatever you've done before, whoever you were before, whatever has happened before, it's not taken away from you. I mean, you have the experience, you have lived through these moments, they're yours. But mentally, you really have to become open for new things to happen. And this is very, very scary because there's this transition period where your hands are empty.
Yeah.
And the thought and the mind process then usually goes like, I've lost everything. I'm a nobody anymore. Everything I've done was for nothing. And the mind has this negative self-talk.
Yeah. Exactly. Always know that.
And then there to snap out of it. And that's what I work with people on. From
Yeah.
there to snap out of it and focus your mind solely and uniquely on the next best possible outcome. It might not happen in a year or in 10 months or in 2 years. But if you keep your focus on the vision and every day you take actions towards that, even if it's just one or two, but you always take action, it eventually leads to an incremental improvement and acceleration of things until you get there. So, in my experience
Yeah.
by now, having been pretty practiced in this, it takes about 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah. For a change. For a change or for letting go. Yes.
And yes, and this is how change management happens. So, there was a German artist, Joseph Beuys, who said, Every new beginning starts in chaos.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because
Of
by
course, yes.
definition, you cannot have an existing order trying to change that order without nothing changing. It's impossible.
Yeah, true that. True that. Yeah.
So the willingness to go through that turmoil and to go through these uncertainties as well as insecurities and doubts, that's resilience. And that can be engineered.
And of course, sometimes what I believe constantly is that those kind of pivotal moments are actually those are which are challenging, which are making you and shaping you and making you resilient in your life and in your career and shaping you and helping you to grow as well. So, since we are discussing, what is the way to let go? Because as you are sharing that when the hand is empty and transition to another again, to another level, to the next
Yeah.
level, is always uncomfortable, is always challenging, it's always scary, it's always dark for sometimes. How at those moments and times we we can stick to our beliefs and our things that we are doing. So there's those scary moments, how to go through them, because many young people might be looking at us right now.
So this is where your value and belief system comes in. You have to have clarity who you are, where you come from, why you're here, what you stand for, where you want to go, in which direction, how long this is going to take, how much effort you're willing to put in, with whom you're going to do that journey, why you want to do this in the first place, and what are your next steps. And to have the clarity about all these points will give you a security net in the sense of when you feel insecure and you learn about emotions, you learn about reading emotions, you learn about how to deal with stress and how to deal with emotional uncertainty. There's specific ways in how you can override fear in the body. And knowing all these tools and techniques and practices actually guides you throughout these situations in a way where you do feel insecurity or uncertainty or doubts or whatever else that you're feeling in that specific moment. But you do have the science-based systems to use and go through in how to deal with the situation. So then the physical reaction subsides, and you actually focused. You become able again to focus with clarity and purpose on what you want to do. So you constantly have to readjust your compass north to your north. And that's what I work mostly with people on. How do you do this? It's not easy, but it can be taught, learned, and practiced and applied. And once you learn this, that's like a superpower, literally.
Super. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I truly believe in that because over the time period as a young leader myself, I practiced the similar kind of mindset traits, and this leads me to the question about your best-selling book about mindset. It's a bestseller, and it has been phenomenal. And you have been working with the you have shared deep insights about how top entrepreneurs succeed in business and life. And you have shared your insights in achieving successes. Um, for our listeners or audience, could you also distill one or two key mindsets that have been instrumental in your journey? I mean, as you've been
So,
teaching, you have been also sharing those key mindsets that are there,
mm.
that has helped you and shaped you as a person, as a businesswoman, as a leader, and of course, through your book, you have been sharing with people as well.
So, first of all, this is a co-authored book, and we were multiple authors who contributed to the topic under the Leadership Press book that they published. It was a Wall Street Journal and a USA Today bestseller on the list. It was on Amazon #1 for entrepreneurship. And each one of us shared their success principles that they learned throughout life that brought them where they are today. I think for me, two things coming to your question come to mind, which I share all the time with people. People want to change the world in one afternoon, right? So
Oh, yes.
patience and kindness with yourself is crucial. I feel like so many times when I work with leaders or team members or entrepreneurs, they're so hard on themselves. So if they can't do it within a week, then they give up. If they can't get it done today, then there's no way they see a future for it. And this is a mindset that's really detrimental. And what I do is I usually say two sentences to uh, this kind of mindset. First of all, nobody jumps up a mountain, right? It's done step by step by step by step by step, going uphill until you're at the top. And that's a process and
Exactly.
it takes time.
Yeah.
The
True.
second one I say many times is if you pull a flower by its head, it doesn't grow faster. All you do is you rip the head off and then it dies. So the patience of allowing a process to happen and understanding it's going to take time. It's like planting a seed into the ground. So for entrepreneurs, for example, I live in Asia, mango trees. Let's take that as an example. You don't put a seed into the ground and the next day you have a fully grown tree giving you fruits. That's not how it happens, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
sometimes even I tell people, please buy a planting pot and grow some seeds just to witness the process. You will not see anything happening for a very long time
Yeah.
until finally a little seedling comes up with one or two leaves, and it takes years to grow into something. The fastest
Yeah.
growing plant, I think, is bamboo,
Yes. Ah, yes.
and even that takes a long time, and you won't see anything happening. So this notion that I don't see progress, nothing happens, I don't have success, it doesn't seem to work, to keep going regardless, not stubbornly, you have to pivot and adjust along the way, but you just keep going in that direction that you set for yourself.
Yeah.
Eventually, over time, things will happen. And to come to your question in how do you deal with this situation is you have to have trust. You have to
Yes.
have trust in your value and belief system. So in my case, it's faith. I just had the situation yesterday. Somebody asked me, "So who is your support system? Whom do you turn to when something goes wrong?" And I said, "I have only one support system, and that's above. It's not here."
Exactly.
Because how can you
Exactly.
rely on people all the time when there are circumstances and situations where there is no people? I've been in natural catastrophes. I've witnessed some of the most violent storms
Exactly.
that there happened in history. Um, there's nobody to turn to. So whom do you turn to when there is no one around? That's the real question. And that's what you need to figure out and sort out for yourself. Because if you do not
Exactly.
have a value system, then it's impossible, I
Exactly.
believe, to get
Yeah.
anywhere. So faith and belief
Yeah.
in
So true.
at least yourself, but if it's only yourself, that's so limited. You
Yeah.
have to have belief and faith in something bigger than yourself, whatever that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. These important traits that to be successful, have the mindset. I think that while you were sharing, there's a constant quote comes in which says, "Slowly is the fastest way to grow,"
Yes. If you
which
want to
is
go
which
fast,
is
go slow and steady. I agree.
you so slow and steady. So um, I think that, and of course, as you were sharing, that often, entrepreneurs or people at the leadership positions are often very hard on themselves. And of course, they are scared of their failures. While I think that the failures are the most important things that are happening in our lives. So tell us one of your biggest failure, or what happened and how you navigate through those failures and that has shaped you. And of course, when you're leading in front and helping the entrepreneurs, business leaders, and leaders who are leading to success, how you see failures.
They say failure is stepping stone to success. I failed so many times at so many things. You have to fail faster and fail forward to get where you are. It's a journey. You know, you try 100 things and maybe one works out.
Yeah.
And then you go forward and then you have the next hurdle and you try another 100 things and maybe one works out. All you need is that one thing that works, right?
Yes.
But to keep
Yeah.
going and doing regardless, even if it doesn't work, you just need to understand it is a numbers game.
Yes.
So when I was 26, I had a car accident and I had 100% invalidity at the time. I couldn't work anymore eventually and had to give up literally everything. I applied for jobs that I could have done, but they didn't hire me because they said I'm overqualified. And I was 27 or 28 years old at the time. And then I applied for jobs which I would have been hired for, but life circumstances changed. I expected my first baby, and I couldn't take the job because obviously I was busy and preoccupied with something else. At the time, that was more important to me than the career or the work. So I was a stay-at-home mom for the first year. And there's always things that happen in life that are not necessarily conducive to what you want to do or achieve. So don't just give up because it doesn't happen right now. Sometimes it
Yeah.
might happen 5, 10, 15, or even 20 years down the line. Just keep
Yes.
your vision on the goal that you have chosen for yourself to do. I always wanted to write a book since I was 16 years old. My first co-authored book was published, I think, when I was 47. So for over 30 years, that thing never let me in peace. And eventually it came to happen, right? So there's
Yeah.
always a right moment for everything. If it doesn't happen now, but it's really important to you, eventually, if it is important, it's going to happen. Maybe not in the way that you think it will, and maybe not through the circumstances that you expect that it will happen, but it is going to happen in one way or another.
Other. Yes.
It's
And
like when you drive
always I
a car.
exactly. Exactly.
Sorry, it's like when you drive a car. So you want to drive into town, but then you get lost on the way. So what are you going to do now? You're not in town where you wanted to be at. You're sitting in the car and you're somewhere lost out in nowhere. What are you going to do? Nowadays, it's not the case anymore because we have GPS systems. So we use a GPS system, right, to guide us towards that path. So that would be mentors, coaches, trainers, teachers, any people that have experience. But if you don't
Yeah.
have a GPS system, then you will have to
Well,
find a way to get out of that situation. And you will. People are very ingenious in finding solutions. Eventually,
yes.
somehow, somewhere, something pops up and you put the things together and then you find a way out of the situation. So the knowledge
True.
that even if you don't know right now how, but eventually you'll figure it out. That's really
Yeah.
important.
That's really important. And failures are always, and these are their realization that you're doing something. You're constantly on the path towards
Yes.
building what you want to build. And it is actually failures are actually redirection to something else as well. Something also happens that
Yes.
for example, I believe that whenever you fail in something or you do not achieve something, it means that that was not meant for you, but there is something else that is coming in your way.
So it's kind of like having this conversation
And
between your belief or maybe just in your head, right? Um, okay, so that was not meant for me, but what's next? What's the next task, challenge, um, riddle to solve? And some
yeah,
people have
yeah,
this and some people don't. Some people are happy from the age of 24, 23, 24 years onwards to live every day the same life in the same circumstances with the same people. And that's okay too. You know, we have
exactly.
different types of people. And that's another thing that I explain to teams and leaders. When you look in nature, there's so many different types of animals, right?
Exactly.
You have
Yeah,
a lion, you have a cat, a snail, a frog, a fish, a bird, a butterfly, and a giraffe, for example. Now,
yeah,
which one is better? There's no judgment. They're all different, right?
that's
Each has a
they are
purpose and each has a specific living environment and each has a different lifestyle. So I think for humans it's the same. I don't know where this notion came from that everybody has to be the same and think the same way and do the same things. There's so many
true.
different paths out there.
Yeah, true, true. It's important to understand those differences and respect them, and build through those differences and build the, in organization, for example, in nations, for example, there are different and diverse um, understandings, diverse physical abilities, diverse lifestyles, views, in fact. And this gives beauty to the entire humanity, isn't it? Because as nations, as organizations, for example, as countries, as communities, we grow through those differences, I think, as you are also mentioning that.
I worked with an organization in the 90s, which is still in existence today. It's called National Coalition Building Institute. They're based in Washington. And this was founded by a Jewish lady after the Second World War who survived the Holocaust. And she
Yeah,
said, never again. And she started an organization that at the time, now we call it diversity, equality, and inclusion, the movement. But at the time, she started an organization against any form of discrimination. So from sexism to ageism to racism to all sorts of discrimination you can think of. And the key factor that she's working with is actually really self-awareness and self-love. People who cannot accept who they are or had an upbringing in a very non-accepting environment, they have the same issues later on as adults in accepting other
true.
people. It's going to be very hard. And how we work
Right.
with these groups, we actually had a movement where we trained peacemakers within schools. So each school got 5 peacemakers that were trained in how to interfere in conflict or bullying situations at the time. And the way we did that was through you have to teach people compassion. And people who never learned that, who didn't grow up in an environment where empathy was modeled or taught or self-awareness was a factor, um, they often have the most incredible reactions within those setups when we do these workshops because they suddenly realize and see certain things they never saw before. So they have breakdowns, break out in tears, or I don't know what else, because suddenly it hits them that, oh my gosh, I know this feeling or this emotion, or I'm not talking about psychopaths here or sociopaths or classical narcissists
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
spectrum. I'm talking about people who have a normal mindset in that sense. And teaching
yeah,
people that we're not that different. Actually, we're not different. Everybody has the same basic emotions. We all want to be seen, heard, and appreciated. And most of the time, people around the world value the same things. They want to have a safe home for their families. They want to have security and enough food on the table, and they want to live in peace most of
Yes.
the time.
True.
So the
Yeah.
notion of that, and then how do we end up where we are today in this
Yes.
situation?
That.
It's all a chess game on a chessboard played by politics and different players, which are not the masses, right? We're just the
Yeah.
moving
True.
pieces in this game.
Yeah, true, true. I truly agree with you. As we are coming to end our conversations, I would also look at the questions that are asked by the viewers. And before that, what is in the future? What are the various initiatives and projects that you're most excited about? I see that there's a lot of going on in Resilient Power. There's several initiatives and products that you're launching. So what are the different initiatives and projects that you want to share with our audience that are currently
So
ongoing?
just to explain quickly what we did over the last 11 months, we did go-to-market testing, MVP, which is a minimal viable product. We got into Microsoft Startup Founder Hub in August, September last year. Only 1 to 3% of businesses worldwide get accepted into that. And then I started working with mentors in Asia here as well as in the US. And we built the beta tester now for the approach, which I've been talking about today and using with leaders and their teams to build that on a B2B, business to business SaaS, service as a software. So it can literally be taught throughout an organization or a company or an entire nation. And we're currently in the works to look for funding, um, drawing up the pitch deck and the financial modeling. And so far, it's been a very steep ride. We made cash flow positive in the first 11 months from ground up, fully bootstrapped. And it's been, I don't want to say it's been a roller coaster. It actually has been like a rocket taking off like this. And I hope that going forward this year, we're going to make this happen. So this approach is going to be available so we can implement it throughout schools or governments as well as different organizations, verticals, and companies. That's the goal. Now, this is a big goal, an audacious goal, but I always think I made it this far, and it wasn't just me doing that. As I said, I always say we just do the work. Let's see where it leads to.
Yeah, yeah, and this is very inspiring. I've been looking and following that product, and I'm truly amazed by the work that you've been doing. So there are a few questions that has been asked by the audience. As one of the question was that as someone who looks up to you, what was the first step you recommend that I should take becoming a change maker in my community?
I think the first step is change yourself first.
So
So
very right.
leadership by example, I think, is the most powerful thing. Now, I want you to understand nobody is perfect, right?
Okay.
And leadership is not some lofty goal that we want to achieve. It's actually something you do every single day on a daily basis, regardless if someone is watching or not watching. You're doing or trying to do the right thing. Can we always do it? No. Are we infallible? No. We're all human. We have shortcomings, we have flaws, we have weaknesses. But the point is to just, when you can make a difference, a positive difference in the smallest of things, holding a door open, saying thank you, carrying a bag for somebody, in the smallest of things, make it a daily habit and lift yourself into the mindset of being of service. Because true leadership, in my mind, is where you lift others up together. It's not, I'm the big boss, I'm genius, I'm great, and I'm standing up
Exactly.
there and I'm fantastic. That's not leadership. If you look back and no one is following you or nobody has an impact in what you're doing, it's not leadership. It's an ego
True.
trip, right? So
Exactly.
if someone asks, what can I do today to become a change maker? Make small changes in your environment.
True.
You see someone who needs help, give them the help they need. Buy them a meal or pay for a school fee or whatever it is, the smallest of things. And you're building your muscle. You're building your muscle up in terms of impact around you. And no one necessarily has to know about these things. It's a
Yeah.
mindset that you
Yeah.
practice.
True. Exactly.
That's
True
how I
that.
did it. That's how I started. And that's how it led me to where I am today. So I just share my own experience. It might be different for somebody else, right? But the question was
Yeah.
asked to me, what would I do? And this is what I have done.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
it's an attitude.
Attitude. True.
Yeah. It's not a goal in itself. It's really an attitude and see how and where you can serve your community in the best way and manner.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I hope that that has been, reached the message across to the viewer as well. Another question that has been asked is that in the face of the setbacks and failures, how do you keep yourself motivated and focus on your goals?
I think I have a built-in dynamo. I couldn't really answer this question. Um, for me, giving up is not an option. If there's no way out, the only way is through, and you just keep going. I don't. So many people ask me, "Oh my God, how do you do all these things, and why are you doing this?" But in my mind, I always feel like that's the only option. There's no other way. So it has to happen one way or another. There's no plan B or, oh, what if it doesn't work? Or
Or,
uh,
yeah,
I could always lie on a beach and not do anything anymore, and I would be bored out of my
true.
mind. It's not who I am. So everybody has a different personality and character. And I think you have to live up to who you are. Again, if you're a butterfly,
Exactly.
that's not the same like an ox. An ox can pull a plow, right?
Yeah,
A bird has a different purpose than a fish. So who are you? And
exactly.
what do you stand for? Not just what you want to stand for, but what's your character? What are your natural inclinations? What are your talents? And how can you
Exactly.
build on that, right?
Exactly. True, true that, true that, and of course, when there are goals, there, your visions, your aspiration, your dreams, there's no point of giving up. And when you give up, then it means that you do not believe in yourself. Again, the cycle of beliefs and where you are standing is always there. And I hope that, I mean, this was such a wonderful conversation. I really wanted to continue for hours and hours. You have been remained an inspiration to me, an incredible person, incredible leader and coach, and somebody who I always look up to you as a guiding force, because the work that you've been doing has always been phenomenal. And ladies and gentlemen, my dear guest, always a host, Socrates table as well. I hope that you are doing regularly now. No, or it is
I've
still
been
going.
doing it last year. I've
Yeah,
been doing it
and it
last
was
year.
amazing.
Thank you very much. We got really good feedback. But all I was doing was providing a platform for people to have an honest conversation with each other. So it wasn't me
Yeah,
talking at people. I just provided the space
exactly.
and the platform where people internationally, professionals could join in and have an
Yes.
actual conversation. And
Yeah.
for some reason, that's so outstanding and extraordinary nowadays. I don't even know why, because this was the norm when I was growing up, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And because it yeah, I mean, it was like more local, but you had provided, for example, in this in the rooms of conversations, I found people from across the world who were there and sharing their experiences on various issues and subjects, and it was amazing. I think that this is the power of technology. I think that this is the way we all connected, and I hope that you will continue doing those conversations, and we will continue learning from you. Thank you so much for your precious
Thank you as
time, and I
well.
hope And I hope that my audience, they will be continuously hearing, again, listen to this our conversation. And if you have any questions, please write down in the video below. And you will also I will also share my guests LinkedIn profile. You can also follow her on LinkedIn with this. This is coming on the screen. Then you can also send her email on her email address, which is also official. You can reach out to her for any questions, and you can also follow her on the website that she does, and the work that she's doing. Amazing, amazing opportunity for you to connect to somebody who has been into this important industry, and of course important work that she has been contributing over the time period through her agency, through her leadership, through her coaching, and of course the wonderful human that my friend Shersaz is. I always sometimes miss your name, pronounce it very differently because of our Urdu dialects. But my sincere apologies if I had missed it in a way. Shersaz.
So
Sharses.
here it gets darker and darker and darker. I didn't switch on the light when we started the interview. I just want to explain why the screen gets always darker
Darker.
by the minute.
But I can but I was looking at is that it seems that it's becoming darker because it's almost 7 p.m. there in Singapore.
It's quarter
Yes.
past seven nearly, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for your kindness and for your presence. And thank you so much, dear audience. You have been staying with us. You shared your questions. And I hope that we can stay with you. And I'll be coming back with you again with another wonderful woman leader from across the world. And we'll share the insight and put a spotlight on them, and you can learn from them. You can ask questions, you can be part of these conversations. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, second season of Global Woman Insight. Thank you so much, everyone, for your wonderful time, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening as well. And let us stay connected. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.